Hi everyone, welcome back. Today we're trying a new foundation. We are going to be trying the new Huda Beauty Easy Blur foundation and the Easy Blur primer. I picked these up a few days ago at Sephora and we're going to try them today and do a wear test. So that is today's video. If you are new here, my name is Blair. I do all kinds of beauty content here on YouTube. I hope you'll subscribe if you haven't already. And let's get into the video. All right, let's get into the primer first. So this is the Huda Beauty Easy Blur Primer. It's a silicone-free smoothing primer, which I thought was interesting. Typically when you hear smoothing or blurring type of primer products, most of them have silicone in them. Not all, obviously, but most have silicone. But this, I believe, is a water-based primer. Yeah, it's a water-based primer. So it looks like this. It's just a soft matte squeeze tube. So pretty basic packaging. And on Sephora, this says it is a non-comedogenic jelly-like primer, which instantly controls oil, smooths texture, and blurs pores for an airbrushed finish. And it has milk thistle extract, which is an antioxidant that soothes oily skin. It has glycerin and it has polymers, which are what create the smoothing effect. I actually did not originally buy the primer. I just bought the foundation. I was in store at Sephora and I want to say when I was in the store, the primer little area was empty. But when I realized I was going to film this video, I figured I might as well try it with the primer that came out with it. So I, for the first time ever, did Sephora same day delivery, which I've never done. And I'm not going to get into the habit of doing it because it's kind of expensive. But anyway, I got the primer so I could really test both. But this is what it looks like. It's kind of like, oh, okay, it's very thick. Very, very thick feeling. It's like a purple color when it comes out. Okay, I wonder if I got too much because that was a lot. It's a very thick texture. Okay, do you already see what that did right there? Very thick texture. That's interesting because it feels like a silicone primer for sure. But it also has like a cooling effect. Like it feels really cold, which I like, honestly. I'm just kind of going in the center of my face. I don't typically apply a primer like this everywhere, so I'm just gonna kind of focus it here. Okay, so you definitely don't need a lot of this. It's very thick, so keep that in mind. But it has like this really cold, cooling feel to it that feels really nice. All right, it's not just me. I just noticed in the description, it says it's a lightweight, long-lasting primer with a refreshing, cooling, jelly-like texture that layers well on top of skincare and SPF. Okay, so it wasn't just me. There is like an actual cooling sensation to it. And today I used my normal SPF, this one from Skin 1004. It's my favorite. So hopefully everything goes well. Nothing is looking weird at all. Like nothing's pilling. I do think it definitely smoothed this area for sure. Like it doesn't look totally matte. Like, you know, sometimes certain matte primers can look like they can make you look like you have no natural skin finish or pores or anything like that. This one definitely added like a smooth texture, but didn't totally mattify. All right, it's been about 5 minutes. I wanted to give that primer a little bit of time to set, and it feels like it's definitely dried down. So let's move into the foundation. So this is the Huda Beauty Easy Blur Natural Airbrush Foundation with 1.5% niacinamide. This is supposed to be a medium to buildable coverage with natural finish. And one thing that's interesting about this is this has dimethicone in it. So this is silicone based and the primer is not. So for that reason, I would say if you are using it with the primer, make sure you give the primer quite a bit of time to kind of set down, because sometimes when you go in with a water-based product and a silicone-based product and you do it too quickly, you'll get pilling and things just won't sit right. So make sure if you are using it with the primer that you do give it the time. Let's go in with this. I got the shade Chai, which is 210. Hopefully it's okay. You know, the lighting in Sephora is not the best. So sometimes it's a little bit hard to pick a shade, but this is what it looks like. It's just a plastic squeeze tube, which I actually really like. You know what this reminds me of, this tube? If you're familiar with the Charlotte Tilbury Light Wonder foundation, it's discontinued now, but it came in a tube like this and it literally felt almost identical to this. But I don't mind the packaging, honestly. All right, so this is shade 210. Swatch it for you on the back of my hand. So this is shade 210. I think this is going to be a good match. We'll see. This one is supposed to be, or it's supposed to have like a beige undertone. So I guess this is considered one of the cooler tones in the range. But in the store, it looked like a good match. All right, I have actually been doing a new application method with foundation, and I'm going to do it today. So I've been using Katie Jane Hughes' priming the brush method, which is basically where you put your product in the palm of your hand, take your brush, and basically build the product up into the brush. I've been doing this with pretty much everything and I can't stop. I really, really like it. It's been a game changer for me, honestly, in terms of applying foundation. So let's give it a try. And I'm using a clean BK Beauty 106 brush. Something I do notice when I do this method of applying is I do find that I use more product, and I don't know why that is, but I do find that I can't do my whole face with like one little pump of product or one squeeze of product in this case. So that's the only thing. I do find that I use a little bit more product when I do this, but overall I've really been liking the finish when I do it. All right, so there it is, applied to half of my face. I will say it's not as much coverage as I was thinking it was going to be. I don't know why. I thought this was going to be more of like a true medium coverage pretty quick, because I feel like I've seen a few people say it's more of a full coverage product. It's definitely not, like just on this side with that amount of product. I mean, you can still see my skin peeking through it for sure. It's not light coverage, but it's definitely not like a full-on medium coverage at this point, in my opinion. But it does look very smooth. It's very, at this point, I would say it's like a softer matte finish with that primer. And I was actually thinking I should have done like side by side, one half with primer, one half with no primer, but of course I didn't think to do that. But it looks pretty, but I did think it would have a little bit more coverage than this initially. So on the other side, I'm gonna try just dotting it, which this is how I normally would apply foundation, or that's how I've been doing it for a long time. So I'm gonna do this and just see. I think the shade match is pretty good. It might be like a little bit dark. I think the undertone is pretty good, but I think it might be just a tiny bit on the dark side, but we can work with that with our concealer and everything. Definitely looks very smooth. They describe it as airbrushed. I would say, yeah, the finish of it does look airbrushed. It looks extremely just smooth and very blurring on my skin. I would say at this point with the primer, it's definitely more of a soft matte finish. I don't see the natural finish claim, and I'm pretty sure on Sephora it says natural finish. So I'm guessing if you didn't use the primer, it would be. Yeah, it says natural finish. On Sephora, I would describe this as more of a soft matte finish, and I would say it's like a lighter medium coverage at this point, in my opinion. I mean, it gives some coverage, but it's definitely not a full coverage. The shade is okay. It's not my favorite. It's a little bit deep. All right, it claims to be buildable. So I'm gonna just squeeze a little bit more on my skin and try to build it up. I'm just kind of curious. It's definitely, I would say, a thinner consistency product. It's not like super, super thin, but it's definitely not a thick foundation either. But it's not watery. It's on the thinner side, I would say. So yeah, that definitely did add some coverage there. I'll do the same thing over here. Okay, yeah, so it's definitely buildable for sure, because adding that bit of product definitely built up the coverage a little bit. Okay, so it's been on my skin probably 5 minutes at this point. And I mean, the finish is beautiful, I will say. Like 100%, I love the finish. I think it definitely looks matte leaning, but it has just like the slightest bit of a sheen to it. Like a sheen, like a natural skin finish sheen, but it's still smooth on my skin. It doesn't look like a radiant hydrating foundation, but it doesn't look flat matte either. It's kind of right in between, but the finish is beautiful. The shade, now that I see it up close, definitely too dark. And I don't even know if the undertone is right, to be honest, but we'll fix it with some concealer. But so far, I like it. The finish is pretty. It's medium coverage, definitely buildable. The primer is definitely very smoothing for sure. And I like the way it looks so far. But I'm gonna go ahead and do some concealer and some color corrector. This is from Huda, so I'll show you this too. This is the color corrector in Cherry Blossom. And I'm just blending that in under my eyes. I don't ever take my foundation up here since I always apply a color corrector. And this one is great. Other than the packaging. The packaging is very messy, but other than that, it's a great product. See the wonder of color corrector? It's crazy. I used to own the Huda concealer. I don't have it anymore. Mine got kind of old, so I'm just gonna use this one from Tower 28. This one's a little bit lighter, so we can balance out the color a little bit. This one is in the shade CC. I really like DTLA, which is this one. This one's more neutral. This one has a little bit more yellow in it. DTLA is not as light as this one. So I'm gonna go for CC because I kind of wanna lighten this foundation a little bit. And I'm gonna blend with the BK Beauty in 14. Something I love doing when I have a situation like this where the foundation shade's just a little bit off is I like to use this specific concealer in DTLA, which is very neutral, and I'll use my same foundation brush and I apply it right here, so kind of along the jawline. And the shade just kind of neutralizes things. It makes things look a little bit less orange or blue or whatever the case is, because that concealer shade is very neutral, which is very hard to find. But I like to do that in situations like this where the shade is off. All right, so there it is with the concealer. The wonders of concealer. You can do so many things with concealer. It's just crazy. One of the things I love about makeup. But this looks incredibly beautiful on my skin. Truly, like the finish on this is so pretty. It's like the perfect amount of being smooth, but not totally flat, lifeless skin. It's like right in between. It's a perfect balance of those two things. I really, really like it so far. All right, I'm gonna finish the rest of my makeup and then I'll be back and we'll wear this all day long and see how it wears. Okay, I finished the rest of my makeup and this is what it looks like. I truly do think this might be one of the smoothest looking foundations on the skin that I've seen. It's incredibly just blurred and smooth on the skin without looking totally flat. Like there's still just this slightest bit of like a natural sheen that natural skin has, but yet it still looks really smooth. It's really, really pretty, especially now that I kind of balanced out the shade with some concealer. I don't know that I would describe this as like an everyday type of foundation just because my skin does look so smooth and honestly airbrushed that I don't know that I would say I would reach for this on a daily basis just because it looks very perfected. You know, there's a difference between foundations that look very natural and effortless and just barely there, and foundations that are not heavy or cakey, but they make you look more perfected, like more of like an occasion type of foundation, at least for me and like what I wear daily. But I mean, the finish is absolutely stunning on this, like smooth, beautiful. So I'm gonna wear this all day long, and I'll do a few check-ins. I'll show you a clip in natural light as well so you can see that. But overall, I think it's beautiful at this point, but I will see you in a few hours. Okay, it hasn't been very long, but I just wanted to show you in natural light because I have a lot of light coming in at this window right here, but this is what it looks like on my skin in natural light. It's only been like 30 minutes, so this is not really like for a wear check-in or anything, but I just wanted to show you what it looks like. I mean, it looks really pretty, really, really pretty. I hope that this wears well because it is just very, very beautiful on my skin. I mean, holy cow, it's stunning. The finish, it looks beautiful. So this is what it looks like in natural light. But I'll see you in a few hours and we'll see how it wears. All right, it's been like 3-ish hours since I applied this, and this is what it's looking like. Still looks pretty good. Definitely worn off a little bit on the side of my nose where my sunglasses are, which is pretty typical of almost everything on me. But other than that, it doesn't look bad. Doesn't look super shiny, although it's not hot today actually. It's only like 80 degrees, which for South Carolina is not that hot. So looks decent, I would say. But I wanted to get a car shot because I do feel like you can always see what things look like when you sit in your car. So this is about 3.5 hours, I would say, of wear. But I'm gonna keep wearing it for the rest of the day, and I'll see you in a few hours. Okay, it's the end of the day, and this has been on just over 8 hours at this point. So I just wanted to give my final check-in, my final thoughts on this. Overall, I'm very impressed with this. Wear-wise, I don't see much that has worn away or just anything very concerning at all. The only thing that I noticed is I have gotten a little tiny bit, it's so minimal that you probably won't be able to see, but I thought I'd point it out. I have like baby little fine lines right here, like not deep at all. And it has kind of collected. There's like a little ridge there that it looks like it's settled there just a little bit. But I mean, from a distance, you would never notice that. You would have to be like really, really close to my face to see that. But I thought I'd point it out because I did notice it. And then just a little bit of wear here, which always happens to me with everything I put on my face. If I wear sunglasses, which I always do because I have really sensitive eyes. So pretty much anytime I go outside and leave the house and I'm driving particularly, or even if I'm not, unless it's dark out, I have sunglasses on. And they always kind of leave marks here. Although I will say the marks on this are more minimal than what is typical, which is nice. I think maybe we've gotten a tiny bit shinier right here throughout the day, but I mean, I'm talking very, very minimal. I'm sorry that I put the primer all over my face today. I just got so excited to try this. I just didn't even think about it. I should have done half and half, so I'm sorry about that. I didn't think about it until it was too late. I will definitely keep using the foundation and the primer though and let you know. And I'll probably do that on my own time, just do half and half with the primer. But I am really excited about this primer, honestly, and I don't get excited for primers typically. Primer is not something that I feel is typically necessary. However, I do think this overall, I was impressed with it. Just the way it feels, the way it looked on my skin. Even before I put foundation over the top, I could tell that it really did mattify and smooth this area in my T-zone without totally taking away any bit of life or shine from my face. So overall, I'm pretty impressed with this. Just using it one time though. But I'm also excited to try this with other foundations I'm really curious how this will pair with other things. And even though this is water-based and the foundation was silicone-based, I didn't have any issues with pilling, lifting, none of that. So I guess maybe that's because I let it sit for long, or for about 5 minutes before I went in with foundation. So make sure if you do get the primer with the foundation, make sure you let the primer really set down before you use the foundation, just because it is silicone based and this is not. In terms of the shade that I picked, I do think this one's a little bit dark for me. I can make it work with lighter concealer. That's kind of what I did today. But if you use me as a shade reference, Chai is a little bit dark for me, for my natural skin tone. I don't have any self-tan on or anything right now, so Chai is a little bit deep. I'm thinking that I might pick up one shade down from here, which I think was called Shortbread, and see if that works a little bit better, because this one I could definitely make it work with a lighter concealer, but it's not a perfect shade match for me. So just keep that in mind if you do use me as a shade reference. In terms of how it compares to the Patrick Ta foundation, which I tried about a week ago, and I've been wearing that almost daily since then. That one, very hydrating, has a lot of glow from all the skincare in it, pretty light on the coverage side. It is pretty long wearing, which this one is too. That's kind of the one thing that they have in common. Other than that, they are pretty much opposite ends of the spectrum. That one is not blurring or smoothing in any way. Even with a smoothing primer under it, it still has a lot of glow from all the skincare in it. So they're very different. This one is much more of a satiny, leaning matte finish with the primer. It is long wearing and it's medium buildable coverage, so you do get more coverage with this one. I also think after just wearing this for one day, I think most skin types would probably like this foundation. Obviously, I used it with the primer, so it was leaning, I think, a little bit more matte than it would if I just wore it by itself. But because it is a natural finish, I really do think a lot of skin types would like this, and this would work for most people. I would say if you're really oily, I think you would like the primer. Even if you're not super oily, I'm not extremely oily, I just have a little bit of an oilier T-zone, you might like the primer because it does smooth and your skin does look a little bit blurred, but it doesn't totally suck any life and moisture from your skin. So I think a lot of people would probably like the primer and the foundation, but I will continue testing it with other things. I will try it without the primer, and I'll let you know in future videos. Maybe we'll try it that way in a future video. But overall, I gotta say I'm pretty happy with it and pretty impressed with everything. The finish, the wear, I really like it so far. That is everything for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you are going to try this foundation or the primer. I will have everything linked for you in the description box and in YouTube shopping, and they are affiliate links that support my channel when you use them. So thank you so much. If you'd like to join my membership, I do have a membership now. It's called the Beauty Club. I just started it and I'm going to do exclusive members content there. A lot of get ready with me's, some live streams, and I'd love to see you there. The link for that is in the description box as well. If you're new, I hope you'll subscribe and follow me over on Instagram at simply.blair and TikTok simply.blair1, and I will see you again very soon. Remember, simply be you.